Let's do it. All right. So I'm chatting with Megan today, and Megan and I connected through the Facebook group, and we've been working together the last few months through my program. So you can say hi, Megan.
Hi.
Listening later. So Megan, let's just start off. I know you've shared a lot of things with me in the past, but what are like main results that you feel like you've gotten from the program and from working with me?
Yeah, I think and it kind of happened as I went through the program and is kind of sustained now. I think some of the biggest things that have really happened for me is just being able to be less anxious about things. I've really gotten a better awareness of myself, even though I think when I started the program, because of what I do in my schooling and things like that I felt like I had a really good awareness, that I'm uncovering some more stuff about myself and some different things to kind of continue to work on or really be aware of. I've been sleeping better. When I started the program, I was having a lot of challenges with sleep. I kind of just got used to having, in the last several years, like getting like 2-3 hours of sleep some nights for like 6-7 nights in a row, and then like sleeping 10 hours another night and just stuff like that. But my sleep's really got more consistent, so I'm feeling more rested and just less anxious, I think. And I think acknowledging my emotions more. I think I was really holding a lot in and a lot back, which was not helpful.
Yeah.
So that's changed a lot for me, because that was a really different thing for me to think about. So it was nice to be able to kind of let some of that stuff out and show that, and kind of really just feel like my true self, like how I feel inside is outside too. So I think that's been a really big change. So lots of things have changed, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah. And why don't you share like what you do, or just your background that you have, that you thought you'd already experienced these things?
Yeah, so I guess the reason I thought I had done a lot of growth is because I am a therapist, and I do like a social work case management role before I became a therapist. And I did a lot of I do a lot of work with children and adults. I deal with a lot of anxious people, a lot of high risk situations and things like that. So people with a lot of different mental health diagnoses, on top of sometimes, legal things and, a lot of other life circumstances, obviously, that go on with everybody. And in my program, before I got into the work, I really did a lot of like kind of growth work of myself, which I think opened me up and kind of started my path on things. But it didn't really follow through, and it didn't get me to where obviously I am today. So there was obviously some more stuff to do, and I think in a very different way than I was traditionally doing, which is, one of those things that was kind of hard for myself to admit as a therapist, like I need help too, and maybe I need to do something different. So
totally. Yeah. And it's so hard because like we don't know what we don't know. So if you're given information and you think you know everything about anxiety or whatever, depression, but there's so much to experience and learn, and it's hard to see past that.
Well, and I think for myself, what I learned is like I can know things that help it, or I can know all about it, but finding what works for me and what like I was going to continue to do and doing the work was the big difference. Like, because, for years I've known like different things I could do for myself, but I never stayed motivated in doing them. Unlike now, where I'm feeling like I'm following through in that. So that's a big difference too. Like, again, I do know things, but like, am I willing to take action on those things as well? I think was a big thing. And do things differently too, and learn some different stuff that I didn't know on top of it.
Yeah, because really the underneath stuff that motivates you to do the things, like that's where the growth needs to happen, right? It's not like more things or techniques. Because we can look online and look for some different techniques, breathing techniques, whatnot. And it's like the lasting work, like the lasting foundation work needs to happen like underneath that, as you're saying, like the foundation.
Yeah.
So why don't you share where you were at before we started working together? So it would just be, where were you at before?
Um, I think before I decided to kind of jump into the like I had contemplated some stuff. I would say for the last 2 years, I've kind of been on the fence of, do I go back into therapy? You know, who will I trust? How will I do it? How will I make it work with my schedule? Like that really didn't work in the past. So like I was in a whole lot of contemplation about it based on past experiences. I struggled a lot in the last 5 years since completing my program and everything. I've had a lot of loss and death in my family. Um, and just my job is stressful and there's a whole lot that goes on. So I kind of continue to kind of cycle in patterns of being okay and then feeling really stuck and really lost. So I think probably about, I would say about 6 months before I actually like jumped into the program, I think I had started kind of just researching some different ways of thinking or different methods to do like, coaching and stuff like that to see what I liked. And I came across the Facebook site. And I know that I think I reached out to you at that point too, because I commented on some stuff and I was like, nah, but I'm not, I don't know, I don't know. So I was still not ready until a few months later.
And like, what were some of the things, because I can kind of remember that first conversation we had too on the phone, but like, what are some things that were like, that were really coming up for you that you're suffering with in your life?
I was really just, I was feeling very stuck and I was just feeling like I couldn't commit or get anything going right in so many areas, whether it was financial or physical or emotional or mental health or in relationships, like everything felt stuck. And then I kind of felt like I just kind of keep repeating the same things. And, I can go out and I can drink and I can do this other stuff that's fun for a time, but like, I'm still feeling very stuck and it's actually making me feel worse. And it was making me feel very inauthentic in my career as well, which was a huge struggle for me because my career and my work has always been something of great pride for me and something I really enjoy doing. But I was having a hard time showing up for people and talking to people about things that I myself knew were struggles for me and I wasn't doing the work on. So like I was really stuck in that when I finally like, when I was kind of contemplating it and really it got to, I think, an even worse point by the time like I finally decided to do the call and just connect and see what this was all about.
Yeah. So you were feeling really stuck, which felt like anxiety, like pretty bad anxiety, some depression as well. Is that what you're feeling?
Yeah, I think I always just named it as anxiety because I was so used to like having the anxiety, but I think just depression and just, I just never felt good, like physically. And I do have some physical conditions, but like, so then I think again, I kind of thought myself like, this is just how it's always going to be. And this is just what it is. And like, which I think then fed more into that depression piece of things where it's just like, I didn't feel good. Like I wouldn't feel good 6 out of 7 days a week. Like that's a lot of time to not feel good and not feel motivated and not want to do anything. Like that's how I was feeling and like that stuck feeling that I was feeling.
Yeah. And like you say, when you're just feeling hopeless about even fixing it, right? Like it just makes the depression worse if there's like this hopelessness.
Right.
So then what was the motivator? You kind of researched some things that like, why was it important for you to really, really fix the stuckness when you did?
I think there was a piece of me like, I had been curious about things. And again, I had been researching and looking at things and trying to do things like from a logical standpoint. But I felt so miserable. And again, just like, how am I going to continue to do my career and how am I going to be able to live my life and be happy? Like, I remember coming into the program and that was another thing. Like, I didn't really know what it felt like to be happy. Like I knew what it was to have happy moments or to like have joy in moments, but I didn't know how just being happy really felt because I was always so busy or I was always feeling stuck and not good. So like, I didn't want to keep feeling like that. Like I wanted that to change. And I thought I have to try something to do it. I have to commit to something and do this.
Yeah. So then you talked about, you read up on some stuff and you had considered doing therapy. You had done therapy in the past, but what other things had you tried beforehand before you found me?
So yeah, I had looked into some different options for therapy. I was kind of maybe thinking of maybe doing some just different like non-traditional therapy type things, where it wasn't like sitting in an office and doing stuff. I'd researched lots of different types of therapy. I had considered possibly, I was looking into some different stuff related to like emotional eating and things like that. And I was going to be joining a course through like my doctor and stuff like that to like look at my eating and things like that. But like for me, it just didn't feel right, I guess. I felt like this is all connected deeper. Like this isn't the route to take. Like taking like a more medical route or a more thing like that didn't seem right. And doing like something specific as far as like overeating or emotional eating or something like that. Like again, like it felt like maybe it could work, but I was like, this is like all aspects, like I feel like what I really tried other than therapy was like looking into different like, wellness or lifestyle coaching type of stuff. But then I think I was also really trying to hone in on specific areas. Like I was looking at like, well, maybe I should get a personal trainer, or maybe I should, do something different for like a career, or find, it's like I kept trying to look at one piece of things as opposed to everything. And I felt like this was kind of the thing that would address all of those areas instead of me picking and choosing one specific thing, because I've done that in the past and it hasn't made a difference.
Yeah, that's so true, because I mean everything is connected. And I like what you just said about like, you were looking into things, you did a lot of research, but like you're like, I don't know if this feels right. Like logically it makes sense, you're very well connected to know all those things, right? But you just had that feeling that like, I don't think this is going to do it. This isn't going, just kind of the like surface stuff, right? Like it's talking about things from a very intellectual level as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess like I had to do a lot of things over the last, or just for over, the last like 3 months. I guess I'm just curious of any of the things, like, did you ever have any moments where like I asked you to do something and you're like, if you remember just like having a reaction of like, oh, is this going to be kind of crazy, or, and then kind of seeing the results of things, you can share if there's anything that comes up of, the first thing I told you or something that came up that stuck out to you.
I think I keep going back to, it's funny to me that like the very first conversation we had, anger came up, and like from your side, like kind of just explaining things to me, or like, kind of what you got out of our first kind of conversation. And I was like, I'm not angry. Like, I don't know that she gets this at all. Like, I don't know if this
doesn't get me.
Oh, she thinks I'm angry. I'm such a happy person. And, come to find out through all the work, like there was a lot of anger and resentment there to like work through it. But like, again, I wasn't getting to that level. So I didn't even recognize it. So like, I think that was a big turning point for me. And I think as I started into the program and started to address that more, like it became more evident to me, which I think then also like really created my bigger buy-in of being like, wow, like this was kind of called out right from the get-go. I didn't believe it. I'm working on it. Things are changing. Holy cow. You know what I mean? And I think that really helped in my complete buy-in of it, because I was just like, I don't know this stuff, and this isn't maybe as familiar stuff to me, even in being a therapist, but I mean, what's the harm in trying it, I guess, because,
Right. What's the harm?
She seemed to be right from the get-go, so I guess I'll give it a try.
I guess I'll keep listening to her. Yeah, it was interesting because even throughout the program, like there'd be things like, well, I didn't know quite what you were saying before this, but like now this makes sense, or, like you were so good at like tying things together and also just kind of staying engaged. So I remember like even after the first week, I feel like I remember you sharing that there were some big changes, right? Like they're kind of consistent through the entire 3 months. Is that right?
Yeah, like I think as I kind of started to get into the work and kind of do things, like I almost immediately started feeling better and sleeping better. And again, I'd kind of always gone in patterns of sleep. So like I don't think I really recognized how much my sleep changed until like probably like 2 months in, when it was super consistent. But I
Mm.
remember just from the get-go, like doing things and getting into like the daily practice stuff and doing the exercises and the homework and things like that were put out there, like I was feeling better. I felt like I was learning different things, and like I felt good. And I think even within a couple weeks, I think the crazy thing was always like what other people noticed. Like
Mm-hmm.
people would like continue to come up to me and be like, oh, what's going on? Like, did you change your hair? Did you do something? Or like, like, oh, you look super happy, or you look super good, or whatever this like. And it was crazy to me because when I started, I probably only told a handful of people I was doing it, and I was
Mm-hmm.
getting this feedback from other people who had no idea that I was even involved in doing anything like this, because again, why would I want that accountability of everybody to know?
I don't want everyone to know I'm doing this.
Right, just some people, just in case.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah, I
like
think
I
at
think that,
one point you said you counted like at least 7 people came up to you
yeah,
and
like,
said that. So
oh, are you losing weight? Like, oh, and like really nothing had changed physically.
yeah.
I didn't, in this entire time, I haven't changed my hair. I haven't done
Mhm.
anything different. I haven't got new clothes. I haven't physically changed anything about me. But obviously, the work that I was doing on myself has created something that other people are seeing in me too, without even knowing what I was doing. So I
Yeah.
think that was also that it was an external motivator for me to like really understand that, like, not only was I feeling a difference, but like I was presenting and coming in a whole different way to people too, which is huge.
Yeah, and what I like about that, it's not like what they were recognizing was your true self. Like they were feeling that, and that's what those compliments were. Right? You were able, because you were just showing up differently in life, just doing everyday things. Right? People are feeling that, and just like when people start to really tap into their deeper authenticity and really showing up more, it's just like people just feel it. Right? Like they're just like, what is that? They want to be around it more. Like they can't quite
Yeah.
put their finger on it. So I think that it's not like you're trying to be someone else or trying to match this happy thing, right? Like you were just pulling the shit away that was getting in the way of you showing up and like really like living to your full potential.
Yeah, no, and like I think, like I remember talking a lot about that, just because I was like, I don't understand what's going on, and like
Mm.
I don't understand, like these people don't even know, like, or people would be like, what's happening? What are you doing? Like, and I'm like, what do you mean? What am I doing? Like, like, well, I decided to like, work on my shit finally.
Yeah,
Like,
working on your shit.
yeah.
Yeah. So then what other things did you notice as you went along, or even just like where you're at right now, that you feel have been made a difference, or even reflections from other people?
Um, I think my communicating and being more open, like I said, I think the emotions and really tapping into that and allowing that to happen, because I think I was very good at blocking a lot of the negative emotions, and thus I think blocking the good stuff too, because
Mm.
I mean, in general, just every day, like I have moments, but I don't get stuck in that pattern. Like I don't,
Mm.
that isn't my entire day. Like I'm able to think about it differently and feel into it differently, that it changes, where like it's not just what I am all the time. So I think like that was really a big change. And again, I think the communication, like I think, again, I came in thinking I was being very clear and very direct in my communication, but I found that I was either being more passive aggressive in my communication, or I was almost maybe being mean, or I was hiding things completely from people. Like it
Mm.
really depended on the topic and the person and the situation, where again, I think that authenticity piece, like that was something that like came to me right from the get-go of what I wanted to change and do. And I think along the way I've found more of that, because like we just talked about earlier, I started showing up more like myself, and I didn't feel like I was like changing roles and changing things for every little thing. Like, I'm just being me, you know, and it's okay if I get mad, or it's okay if like I'm frustrated, and like, but how about I just express that, or I deal with it and I move on, instead of like holding that for weeks and weeks at a time. Which it's still a process, but I know I'm doing a lot less of that now, which is great.
Totally. And I remember, I mean, you had moments where you're speaking up to people at work more clearly and directly, and also just like less reactive to situations in your career, which is awesome. And so how has this had an impact on you working with your own clients?
I think actually, again, kind of getting back into doing some work for myself, I obviously have a greater empathy in my work that I'm doing, and how hard change really is, even if people get it and understand it, or they agree or know what they need to do. Like, change is a process, and like, things happen. And I think too, I think just being able to listen and, again, communicate better with my clients, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I don't feel like I'm so caught up in my own stuff anymore, I guess. Like, not that I felt like I was ever at a point of being a disservice to my clients, but to the point where, like, I don't know that I was being as present, because I feel like there was a whole lot I was still kind of bringing in day to day, or things like that, weren't helping me be there for them and do the work. So I think it's improved my work overall.
Totally. Well, I like how you said that it's like you have more patience or compassion, empathy for your clients. Although you did say that change is hard, and you have created a lot of change over a few months. But what stands out with that is like the reason why you had that change, Megan, is that you decided before, like you were like, I'm committing to myself, right? And then some people, most people, like they want it, but the change is really hard because they haven't fully committed, right? But like you fully committed, and that's where it's like over 3 months, it's like, think of all the change that you've had, right? Like, did you even think it was possible to have that much change?
No, I didn't. And again, like, it was work, and at times obviously harder than others.
Yeah.
But just to like see that, like, again, like in 3 months, like to see such a change in so many aspects, like, you're right. Like, if I wasn't committed, and if it wasn't like that thing, like that, I was like, no, like, this needs to happen, and I don't really care what I have to do this. Like, whatever I'm doing it like with everything and going after it, because like at this point, it doesn't make sense not to half-ass it or whatever, because like then I don't want the change, obviously, like I've been stuck with that before. So how am I going to do something that I commit to and see how it goes, and just kind of like trust the process? That was the other thing, actually, that like I've heard several times, like in talking or in the videos and stuff, and that really connected with me, because that was actually something in college that came up. One of my professors always said that, because I always had a very hard time in trusting the process and that things would work out. And here I am, being reminded again, like, just trust in it. And if you're putting into it and it's what you want, like, things will work out when you put the work in and start doing it, and that's
I like that too, because it's like, I work with people who have anxiety, right? So trusting the process can be really difficult, because they typically have really big trust issues. And yet, like you talked about, like the program, like it was challenging. Of course it's fucking challenging, right? If we're going to make change. It's actually simple if you trust the process. It's actually simple, it's not easy, but it's like simple, right? It's pretty like laid out. Do this. If you do these things, I haven't met anyone that's done all the things and hasn't had the results that they wanted, It's just like, and that comes with your commitment to yourself too. Like, you had to step up and say, I'm going to trust that this is the thing I'm supposed to be doing, right?
Right.
Because logically, it probably didn't make sense to to work with me, right? But you're like, all right, I'm going to do this.
Let's go, right? Like, what else? Like, I don't know. And it did. Like, it just, I guess it felt right. It just felt like it needed to happen. And again, that aspect of, I need to deal with everything on the whole, like, and it's just, and again, like, my thought process was like, and maybe that's also why I was more committed. It's like, I'm looking at all of these things and dealing with all this stuff because, again, then it's going to change everything. It isn't like deciding I'm going to go to the gym and work out. Like, yep,
Yeah.
that can help multiple things too, but like, that wasn't going to help me process like my deeper, like, you know, things that I needed to work through. So
yeah,
it just
that's so true. It's not like just accountability to do this thing and that's it. And I do remember that you had said too of like at the end, you had said, you know, what if I would have waited a year or 5 years or 10 years, you know, because it's so easy to put things off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's my biggest thing. Like, man, how I wish I would have been ready and done this years ago. But again, like with so many things I've tried, you know, I wonder what my commitment level would have been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think, yeah, like a year or 5 years or whatever from now, like, again, like I'm at a point now where like I feel I will continue to grow and I'll continue to like do different things, and I'm going to come at them in such a different way and so ready to do it and able to do it that, you know, life is going to continually be that transformation of things for me, I think. But I never even thought that would be something that would be possible before. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted how I'm feeling now, but I didn't know that that was possible or how that was going to look because I lived 35 years of my life not like that. You know what I mean? And who I thought I was doing the best I could do, you know, which was my limiting myself. You know what I mean? Like, I thought, like, well, I'm accomplishing this or I'm doing this, and I have these problems, and this is just, you know, like I was allowing myself to sit in it and be stuck, as opposed to like going, no, I don't though, like, and I don't need to attach to that stuff. I can continue to move forward. And again, now, like, I'm super hopeful going, wow, like if I did this in 3 months, imagine what a year from now is going to look like, or 5 years from now, as I keep just kind of building and working towards things. And like, I'm actually looking at it hopeful instead of when I started. I think I even said, like, I can't imagine being in the same place I'm in a year from now. Like, I'll be miserable. And at that point, I think I will have given up hope. Right?
Yeah.
You know, so.
And what is life if you don't have hope? You know, it's just like, there's nothing there for life if you don't have hope. Like, even if you're living with the lack of hope, it's just really miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where you're at now too, you have all this awareness. You have all the stuff in the program to go back to, but then you also are like part of the group, which I'm doing, you know, regular training. So it's like you're still getting supported, and you can still move forward, right? It's not just like this. Let's just give you a little bump with your confidence. You know, it's like this stuff is also lasting change because you're kind of reprogramming the way that you're communicating, looking at relationships, yourself. Like, it's not just this like kind of short term.
Well, and I remember too, like in that interim before I really hopped on, when I first like got on the Facebook page and was looking at stuff, like I remember listening to some of the podcasts and stuff like that. And since then, even again, and going through the program, like re-listening, like I'm picking up different things, you know what I mean? And like where I'm at in different places are like, well, that just makes a whole lot more sense. And you know what I mean? Where I'm just kind of like, you know, like it changes everything. So even that sort of stuff, that's just that, you know, extra material that's being put out there and being done, like that helps. You know what I mean? Because I think it's a different perspective every time I come back at it. You know, something else comes out to me.
Yes, that's so true. You can just always keep seeing the different things. And it's like, if you aren't noticing those changes, it feels like something like that, then you know that you haven't been changing, right? But like, because you've changed so much, you can just see the massive difference and make like totally different connections that are then going to support you for where you're at.
Yeah.
So what are any like big takeaways that you would like because, you know, I'm going to be showing this to Facebook group people. So anyone in the audience listening, like, what are big takeaways that you want them to understand?
I think the big takeaway, like, is really like there is hope. You know, like it's going to be like anything else where you have to want it and you really have to work for it, but it is possible. You know, I think that's always the biggest piece for people to kind of jump forward and do it. Is like, oh, I don't know, is it going to work? Is it?
Yeah, exactly. Is it going to work?
But it's huge. And again, I think again, people being people, I think everybody's going to take away a different experience depending on what it is that they're working on, you know, what their life experiences have been and things like that. But I think, again, you end up hitting on all the areas and working through it, which I think is helpful. And again, being able to go back into things or being able to, kind of continue to do work, after, the initial program time is helpful, like doing that. And I think you have to be honest with yourself, and in the work and support, I think with you has been huge, and not feeling like you need to hide things or let's not talk about that or whatever, because one, it doesn't work.
There's space for everything here.
Like, it doesn't work, because I can try to hide it or I can try to talk with my head, but you're gonna want to go a little deeper, and then
Janelle will call you out on it. Lovingly call you out on it, I think.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think like, again, it's work, and I think you have to be ready for it. And I was at a time and point in my life that I don't know that there was a better time, like in my work life and in my personal life and everything, where like I really needed it, and a change had to happen. And I also had the space and ability to really immerse myself into it, because I don't know from other people's experiences, but I know from my own experiences and other things that I never was fully immersed for a long period of time. And that's why, like, it didn't last long, So I think it's really like being committed to it and being honest and open and really being ready and doing it at that time to get the most benefit out of it, because it's still work. It's still, but it changes things. So that's what I think people are looking for.
So what would you say to someone who was on the fence about investing in themselves in this way?
I was definitely an on the fence person, just in thinking about, I've never spent as much time on myself as I have in this 3 months. And going in, I didn't know I would spend that much time on myself necessarily.
Yeah.
But I think you really have to want to do that for yourself. And I think, for the program and, and being on the fence of that, like, it really just is, do you want to change, or do you want to take a step in the next direction and like try something different and just and get into it, like, and try to do that, because it's a day by day process. But like, it didn't take long for me to become, like, feel better, like within a week. Like, there were things that were starting to change, and like that, again, kind of continued to propel throughout the program, which gave that piece. And it wasn't anything that I was doing, like, with prescriptions or with, what I mean? Like, I was making changes by literally just working on myself. And like, it's
just
so important
with your health, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to change unless you're really willing to dig into yourself and work on yourself, but you can do it. Like, you have power that you don't know until you start really getting into things and working on it. Yeah.
So you're giving them hope, like, it's possible. So if you're on the fence, like, just do it. Because what do you got to lose, right? Like,
yeah. If I can do it as an avoider and people pleaser, I feel like anyone can do it.
Yes, avoider and people pleaser. Totally. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your experience. It's been so lovely to have you in the program. And as I said before, like, you're not going anywhere. We're going to be connected for a while, I feel like.
I hope so. Because I'm still going to need somebody to call me out every now and then. I know that.
Totally. It's one of my superpowers. Thank you.